Hi people, welcome to Rebirth for the Cool Volume 1. Rebirth for the Cool is a project I did as part of my insurance as a dance leader who's contributed to dance in many ways, socially, physically, intellectually, culturally, emotionally, spiritually, in the city of Manchester and outside. I'm a pioneer, which people know of UK jazz dance. And what needed to happen for me was I looked at the historical factor that many African diaspora dancers who've contributed to social dance have been written out their own history. And I was writing out my own history already. 2009, a book that came out on UK jazz dance scene. I was written out of it, out of my city, Manchester. Now, I didn't only dance in Manchester, I danced across the country and the parts of the world. So what happened, I was already ahead of the game in the sense of writing about UK jazz dance, because I'd been told by my teachers who worked in the commercial industries. The commercial industries has an amazing way of writing out, particularly Northerners, out of their history. And who generally write them out their histories, the people from the South. It's an amazing story. And what happened, the teachers I'd worked with, amazing Afro-Cubist dancers and dance musicians, percussionists as well, they were written out of history. It's amazing. My job is to write them back into history as individuals who gave me knowledge, experience and skills, as well as my father and my mother. The individuals, they're the ones who gave me the first steps and gave me the tenacity, gave me the resilience, gave me the creativity, gave me the foresight, gave me the vision. They gave me the pride to have pride in your cultural dancing. My parents taught me that. And as an individual, I taught my son that. And I taught other people that. Always respect your dancing, especially your social dancing. You don't put it down. You don't see ballet as being better than your social dance. They're equal, because ballet has a role that is important to the community, and your social dance has a role to you and your community. Do you understand? But what happened, we live in a society, on sort of Western society, that's put hierarchies on ballets, this sort of art form that shapes you better than social dance. Well, I'm an individual. Part of my legacy, I did ballet, and I was exceptionally good at ballet. I'd done contemporary, and I'd done social dancing. There's no difference between the two. If you want to be a good social dancer, you discipline yourself. And social dancing gave me the aptitude to be disciplined at ballet. That's my story, part of my story. Yeah. And one of the key things, what happened with my art form, UK jazz dance, unfortunately, Western writers and onlookers identified it as aggressive, as macho, as an individual. My work was to make sure I broke the stereotypes about this, because there are long-held stereotypes about black males. When you look into black dance history, you'll find that we have the most dances in history, particularly in the Caribbean, where males and females dance together. So this whole thing about macho is something that's perpetuated deliberately, is a distortion, is a misrepresentation in the context of black dance. Do you understand? It's important that people have an understanding of what I'm saying today. And what happens, Western society made sure that they hid the history away from you, so you don't see no information, hardly any information to do with UK jazz dance around. It's been around for over 30 years, or black dance in general. It's important because people made sure, first of all, they hid the history. Secondly, they didn't record it. So hundreds of dances that came to the UK that were created as a social way to people to bond with each other have been lost. But we're in a beautiful time now, this moment, where what's happening is dance is now being researched. You see, dance wasn't researched before because it was identified as being insignificant. Oh, that dance, the reggae dancing doesn't have nothing that's significant. Soul dancing has nothing significant, but it does have something significant, because the dances, all black dances, bring people together to bond, to get a sense of belonging. Do you understand? Right? Because people looking from a prejudice perspective, is a reason that most people just see our dances as insignificant. But if they looked up, they'll find that, for example, soul dancing is probably one of the biggest movements that you have, particularly in the north of England. Yeah? Jazz dancing, what's not talk about, it's global. We invented it. We as the individuals spread it to other cultures, and it's still here. Vernacular dance is still here. But you have to know the history of what happened was people took away the social dance and put it on stage. And that what happened then, the bonding situations that were around before were lost. So they took it on stage, stopped clubs. Here's historically what people do as individuals, what dominant group will do to kill a dance. So part of my work, I talk about how did our social dances get killed. They never got killed by accident. They got killed deliberately through a methodical process. A club will change its music policy. Clubs had a black door policy, and that black door policy is here. I talk about it today, and talk about one part of my legacy is that I kept dancing. I just found different ways to keep my dancing alive, because everything included, all types of our black music included jazz. So when neo soul came, I kept my jazz dancing going. Then deep soul house came, and I kept up the jazz dancing because jazz was incorporated in there. Do you understand? Michael Jackson, jazz riffs are in there. I just danced my jazz to a different form of music. That's what I did. I kept the freedom of who I was, and most importantly, I kept it going at home till I myself created my own events. When I created my own events when I was in college, dance college, I went to dance college. I created my own events 7 days a week, just how we had it in Manchester. The same thing. People had their own homes and had their own events, and I called them the House of Jazz Dance Sessions. People came, and we weren't playing jazz, they were playing a genre of music, because we never had a club that was directly to do with jazz, and I wouldn't want a club that played only jazz. I like other music that has influences or is a derivative of jazz. Yeah, I'm saying some blues, R&B, ska, reggae. Why? Because that's the existence I was living in. I was living in an intergenerational community in the sense of how I relate to jazz dance. Yeah, I'm saying like Cuba is an intergenerational community. That's how we lived. The West Indians, African Caribbeans, that's how we live. And what happens is there's been a distortion of people writing on UK jazz dancers. So it's coming from a Western perspective, which is just, guess what? We just played jazz. That's all the music we played in a venue. No, that's not how our lives were. Our lives were a genre of music. And what happened was the movements that were created were looking at experimental jazz. They started to look into what jazz did, where it came from, who did what, why they did what, particularly politically. All our music, people need to understand, is political. You look at the history of black music, from the 1800s to 1900s, 1950, 1960, 70, 80, there's always some form of political statement being made in them. And what happened was the Western society, the wider society, brought in a music that was anti that. Do you know what I'm saying? Just music for sensory reasons. Do you know what I'm saying? And to let that be dominant. But there's always been a political group that's always involved himself in music. So hip hop, jazz. You had what is called, Afrocentrics started to talk about positive things, positive lyrics, and still bringing positive lyrics into it to raise our consciousness, because the music, our first use of music and dance was to raise our consciousness, to be spiritual people. That was our first form of way that we used our music. And in being spiritually you look after your health. That's important as an individual. And I'm one of the individuals who want to come back and show you, look, this is what my art form was used for. I've gone through what is called life story. I did life story coaching at Oxford Brookes University. I broke down my life into 12 sections. And I talk about how dance played a spiritual role. That spiritual role was for health and well-being. From the womb, my mother, she wanted to use dance, not for me to become a dancer. She used dance as a way to enable me to be more healthy, to be more self-expressive, to be more creative, to be more sociable. Was important to my parents because I was a very shy person. Yeah, extremely shy. I had social anxieties. At that time, my parents didn't know I had dyslexia. That made it even worse. Do you know what I mean? I had a lot of confusion. I was inside myself. I had social emotional problems. Yeah, that made me insolent sometimes, made me angry at sometimes. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have the emotional intelligence that I have now in the way to express myself freely about my emotions, how I feel socially about something, physically, intellectually. How people treat me is one of the key things. It's important for me in the way that I use dance. And so I use dance to heal me from the ill treatment that I receive from other people. That has been entrenched in my life as a person with special education needs, because I've been a person being marginalized, I've been a person put down, I've been a person violently bullied and teased 24/7. Boom. I've had beatings from police, and I've had beating from bouncers as individuals, and I live with the nightmares of these things, as well as being involved in life-threatening illnesses that have taken place in my life. Do you understand? So I use dance as a place to dance as a as a vehicle to manage pain. I used it as a vehicle to enhance my cognition, because I realized that it enhances my cognition, and then I did research and found that it enhances my cognition. So what happened, my journey in writing about what I'm doing at the moment is showing that this art form is significant socially, physically, intellectually, culturally, emotionally, spiritually, politically, economically, technologically, environmentally, and legally. I'm using technology now at this moment in time to raise my art form, to identify to you a project that you would never know about. You could never know about this project unless I had technology. Am I into technology? Yes. As an individual, I got an A grade in internet communications at my college when I first did a foundation to IT. Now the irony, I wanted to do multimedia and business because I wanted to create resources. The irony, I didn't know I had dyslexia. So when I was using the software in my foundation course, I had a lot of problems. I needed dyslexia software to use. So I decided, guess what? I can't go on for 3 years struggling with software. So let me just do business, and I will learn the technology side separate, or and employ people who can use technology, because I wanted to create resources. This is a time where you need resources from people who have history, because a lot of people are dying at a very early age. My teacher lasted to 103. If I lasted 103, I'd be shocked, yeah, through the experience. So a lot of my friends have died in the 50s and the 40s because the lack of knowledge about dance. Do you understand? Because they were doing everything and not only about dance, but about who they were. People identity crisis, how people's first 5 years that they were brought up. I was brought in the slums of Manchester. You have to see what the slums of Manchester looked like in 1964. It wasn't a nice sight. But I must say to myself, and I looked to people and said, you know what, when we was growing up, the slums is a place I've got love. That was a time we spent more time with our parents. After 7 years old, 8 years old, when we moved to the suburbs, we hardly saw our parents because they're working back-to-back shifts. Do you understand? But in the slums, it was very much, we got the community vibes, and we were living in a house in one room with other people living in one room. So we had a communal vibe. For me, that was the best time of my life, and I say that even now. Because you didn't know any better. If you've grown up in an area which is run down, you don't know. It's a playground. And I did a lot of play there. And I had a lot of fun, and I had a lot of friends there. So it doesn't matter what it looks like, it's what I experienced. And there, it was very much a multicultural environment. And we went into each other's houses. When you went in the suburbs, you weren't allowed in people's houses unless you get invited. And most houses I never went into, and most of my friends' houses, I've never been in the house. I've been to the door. Oh, Tommy's coming. And they've come to my house. They don't come in my house neither. But in the slums, what happened was, we were the latchkey children. We went through each other's houses. We ate at each other's houses. Then you moved on to another house. It was amazing. The communal spirit in the slums outweighs the suburbs any day of the week. Because there's something about the slums where everybody knows we're in the same boat. And you've got taught values. Use your skills. Any talent you had, teach others. And that's one of the things that separates me from many other people. Was anything that I learnt at university, anything I learnt on an arts award, a business award which I've had, anything I've learnt through a leadership course, I always came back and gave that to my friends, gave back to my family, and gave that to people in my community. Always. I was creating some form of project or found individuals. So right now, when I came back from Oxford Brookes University, I was on approved time out. I found artists and was coaching them, and I was mentoring during the time of my rehabilitation. And I found it invaluable because what was happening was, from 2003, the Department of Culture and Media Sports identified that all artists had been trained inadequately. And I could register with that because I'd been one of them artists, but I had been also trained adequately, because what happened was, when I was an artist, I became an arts manager. And that registered that you had to be business minded. So I didn't know kicks. What happened, I've been negotiating fees for artists. I've been negotiating copyright for us. You know, if Cantamanto involves them, that's to do with videos, do with photographs. So at the same time I was doing it as an artist, as well as being an independent promoter of my own events. Again, that involved me in business, as well as being an artist. Do you understand? Most people weren't involved in the administration and management side. And I was doing that for an organisation, leading that organisation successfully. And I led a group called Cantamanto from 84 to 89 successfully to the first percussion festival in Britain. And they were the only African group to be involved in. And that was all business. That was a commercial one. And what happened was, through that, Northwest Arts called me in, who with the group, Northwest Arts was given a £6,000, a very minuscule, very small fee funding. And they said they're going to cut our funding soon. I just looked at them. But they said, look, you've done successfully well with what you're doing. If we gave you training to do a 3-year business plan for Cantamanto, and you led it, would you do it? Would you create this business plan if you gave the training? So I said, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, so I was supposed to lead them, and it was a good time for us. So I got training, and my Northwest Arts, they thought about it, which was really good, because what happened was I had a wide range of experiences in working within the mainstream organizations in the arts, underground organizations as well, you know what I'm saying, and a lot of cultural groups. So that's why they call me, because they realized that I had the knowledge and experience to lead this group in a commercial way around the world. If you done Percussion 88, all we have to do is create a tour, our own festivals, our own ideas, which I had, because I was going to festivals, which they were rare as well. I was going to festivals all throughout England, 24/7, all the time. I didn't have to go far. In Manchester, we have festivals 24/7, but I was going there to observe them. And I was observing theatre, I was observing music festivals, I was observing theatre festivals. Manchester had everything that I needed to learn as an individual, and because it was a multicultural environment also, I learnt a lot. Cantamanto did the biggest multicultural drumming and dance projects ever in Manchester. That is the reason they call me there as an individual. So they put me onto this idea, oh, you know what, I need to set up my own management company. That's what had to come next. Yeah, but what happened is I have to make sure I archive. When that time comes, I have to make sure I've archived, because people are going to come up and say, you haven't done that work, etc. So Rebirth of the Cool, I archive photographs, video, etc. of pilots that I did, because as a person with special education needs, I never identified this. I identified special education needs. A person with special education needs, I wasn't getting the opportunities to lead in certain ways that I wanted, and I needed to lead in my own way. So I created about over 40 projects, pilot projects, myself, that I led and documented them and just put them down. I said, right, if I did a project like this is what I would do, boom, for my own company, knowing what I need. I basically, the pilots gave me a emotional intelligence. They gave me self-knowledge and self-awareness. If I work with a group, what is my best thing to do? Yeah, so I'd bring in a PA. That's the first of all. Do you know what I'm saying? I'd have an arts administrator. I wouldn't be doing it. I'm a creative person. I can drive through everything. I'll go out and get sponsorship. That is my best thing to do, and I'll do the creative work. The creative work is easy for me to do. The sponsorship is the hardest work, not the creative work. I can bring artists around the world. I know that already through my own experience, through my own CV, and that was partly one of the reasons why I documented Rebirth of the Cool is my insurance. My insurance is that I worked underground and I worked in the mainstream, and I was involved in the most experimental activities that were happening deliberately, because the experimental ones, the ones where you learn more than anything else, don't they run of the mill, and they were one-offs. Do you know what I'm saying? So I learned new key things about performance, etc., because I wanted to be involved in cutting edge, creating cutting edge work, or working cutting edge artists, having understanding what can work and what can't work, and have case studies for them. Listen to me, what is important. It's important that you as an artist have case studies when you walk anywhere. If you want funding, if you as an artist want to work with other people and you want to get them on your side and they're cutting edge and they don't know you've done cutting edge work, it's important that you can show them you've had cutting edge work. And that's what I did. I archived. This is me. 1985, for example, I worked with Manchester Science, Arts and Technology, did an amazing project. 1985 to 86, professional. That's our first professional contract in contemporary dance ever, was with them. 85, 86. I had a ball. I learnt so much, and I wish they were around. They were here from 83 to 86. I knew about them. I would have loved to work for them full time, because it was just ideal. I mean, they were at the cutting edge because they were based on Bauhaus. But I got an opportunity to work with them. Terry Scales, Maxine Thomas, people from Loretta. Amazing. And the work was social commentary work. That's why I wanted to work with Terry Scales. The work he was doing with Maxine, they were doing excellent work. It was something that of substance. It related to Manchester. It was about the miners' strike when that came up as an individual. And that's for me as a person. I'm a politically inspired artists, because I believe art should be used for a wide range of things, which are fun, for sure, celebratory, of course. But what happened, keep to the roots of how the arts came to this world. Roots of the arts came to this world. It was used for to make political statements. They were used to raise the morale of people in the community and raise their consciousness. When key things are happening, how do you challenge society? You challenge society by your arts. Yeah? If you just had arts just for fun 24/7 century, it'd be no good, would it? You need arts that challenge you, that make you get up and say, you know, tomorrow I'm going out and I want to make a difference. And as me as a person, I want to make a difference. And I want to make a difference to my life. I don't want to contribute to the arts and then next minute I have to look for another job, which is what the Department of Culture, Media, Sports was identifying. The artists weren't trained to sustainably think about careers. When they had all this experience, they just gave it up. And that was the importance of the Department of Culture, Media, Sports report. Me becoming more commercially aware that, guess what? There's other avenues for me as an artist, as a dancer. So I used dance, and I got opportunities to use dance for professional development. I got to use it for personal development. I got to use it for personal training. So I've used dance for keep fit for individuals, using a very alternative way, because as a dancer, I train myself. And I mixed many different styles of training together. And I'd been a sports excellence person. So a sports excellent person, Sale Harriers, Flixton Cricket, Lancashire Cricket Ground, various places. I went to certain camps to learn about sports, and I was at Bedford. I did sports science at Bedford. I did a foundation to sports and dance foundation. I wanted to become a teacher, yeah, and I was going to make a decision on I'm going to do dance. I went there to do dance, but what happened was dance and sports. I wanted to be a dance teacher in America. I didn't want to be a dance teacher here, because in America, sports is associated with business. Dance is associated. They have what is called dance sports, and it's a big business. You have to be business minded to be a teacher in America. And when I was in Bedford, that came up. Yeah, I thought the first time I ever thought about being away, teaching, yeah, or bringing my own company back to Manchester, or have companies franchised around the UK that are business orientated in the sense of the arts and very much personal development focus, because we needed that. And then looking at maybe using that dance in